Good day, grade 2. Last week we looked at Benny and the Sea Monster. We also looked at the elements of a story and the structure of a story. In any good story, you will have characters because they make up the story. That is the who is in the story. The setting, if you can remember, that is where this takes place, and also the when. The story structure is about the parts that the story is divided in. And if you can remember, it's divided into three parts: the beginning, the middle, and of course, there must be an end. Every story has a type of a problem or some obstacle or some situation that needs to be resolved or made better. Okay, let's go on. Our story has a beginning, and we refer to the burger building up a burger. Okay, so the bottom part, the middle part is where you start building up everything that makes this burger what it is, goes into the middle part. This in the story is what the people feel, what they think. The author tells you these things, otherwise, we won't know. We can assume, but it's not always good. Right. When you're building it up to where you want it, you need to end it. You need to close that. Your closure or your ending, very similar. You cannot have your story hang in the air and everybody reading it thinking, oh, and what then? No, it has to have an ending to say, that was it. I'm done. Okay. And everybody's satisfied with the story, how it proceeded. Cool. Now, the beginning of our story in Benny and the Sea Monster, in the beginning of the story, we learn about characters which are Benny, Jada, and Uncle Tay. The main character, as we gathered from the title, is Benny. Everything in the story is about Benny and his predicament that he is in, his problem that he has. Okay. We learn about the setting. That is the where this happens and sometimes when. We found out that's on the beach early in the morning and they are going to look at tide pools. That was the whole idea. The beginning also tells us that Benny does not like it. It starts preparing us to understand his problem. It tells us he does not like the slimy sea monsters that you find in tide pools. Okie dokie. Then the next week we went to the middle part of the story. We now know he does not like tide pools. Now, in the middle of the story, we identify what the actual problem is that needs to be resolved or solved. We find that one of the sea monsters that scares Benny is in trouble, meaning the little octopus baby, because there was a big gull coming that way and they do eat little and big octopus. Okay. This is also the part that creates the turn in the story. This is where the problem starts to unravel or be exposed and having to be dealt with. We need to solve the problem somehow. Okay. By the end of this story today, we will see how everything falls in place and comes together. We will see how the story ends, but not before the problem is resolved. No story will end with the problem still hanging and unsolved. We will see in this part of the story if and how Benny's problem is solved. Right. We're going to move on to the story now and read the last part, which is on page 114 and 115. Just to recap again, Benny and Uncle Tay and Jada, his friend, goes to the beach. They want to go see the tide pools. Benny is not in the mood for the tide pools. These are my characters, as you remember, and you can see on his face already, he's not impressed with tide pools and slimy sea monsters. Cool. They have a look at what's there, and Jada keeps teasing him and laughing at him because he's really not impressed with what he sees. She obviously has no problem with it, and she's probably used to it. Her dad taught her all about sea animals since she was a little girl. Okay. Then we found in the middle part where he's starting to come a little closer and look at the tide pools and all the things he sees in there. And the one thing after the other makes him feel like they're going to grab him, they're going to pull him under the water, they're going to crawl all over him, they want to eat him, whatever else. That's all the thoughts that's in his head. We don't know that this is really true. For him, that is true. Okay. Then here it starts to change. They see the little baby octopus and he squirms again and she laughs and she says, "No, he's just a little baby." And then she also teases him. If they grab you, they will not let go, which is true, but it's not in the bad way that we think. They just suck onto whatever they grab onto, they hold on. And she teases him as being a scared cat. And then suddenly the story changes. Here is where it reaches like almost a climax because Jada realizes that there's a gull and the bird is going to eat it. Now, we will see how Benny reacts because this part really changes the whole story. And this is where Benny is starting um, to have to solve his problem. He has to almost solve his problem. Let's move to today. Right, let's quickly look at the words we have to know in the story that comes up. The word object, which only means something, a small thing, something you can hold, you can see, you can touch. An object. Right. Scoop, the word scoop means to pick up. You scoop up something. If you remember, if you take ice cream, they put a scoop of ice cream on your cone. Okay. Then the word swoop, they're very close, but make sure you understand. Swoop is when a big gull swoops down, means he dives down, he flies down suddenly. Okay. You will understand it better when we read it in context in the story. Now, they realized before the gull wants to eat the little octopus. Benny turned around quickly. The octopus had crawled out of the tide pool and was slowly creeping across the wet sand. He watched the big gull swoop down. The gull was starting to poke at the little octopus with its sharp yellow beak. The octopus was squirming. Remember the word squirm. Take in a bad position because of your situation. Right. Trying to slide away over the wet sand. Now, outside of the water, remember, an octopus is not very agile. They cannot move very well. They are water creatures. So he is very slow. If you put him in the water, he is fast. But out in the sand, he's slowly trying to get away. The little sea monster was helpless. Uncle Tay was running toward them with an object in his hand, something in his hand. But Benny was already on the move. Now, here, Benny doesn't even think twice. He just knows, I have to save this little creature from dying. He ran toward the bird. He was yelling and waving his arms wildly. The frightened gull flew away. Uncle Tay and Benny stood over the little octopus. Uncle Tay had a magazine. He gently pushed it under the wet sand to scoop up the octopus. Benny carefully took the magazine from his uncle. He could not let the octopus slide off. He rushed back to the tide pool. The octopus looked squishy and slimy. Benny was worried that it would crawl onto him. So he's still worried a little bit, but it's more important for him to save this little creature. He could almost feel its sticky tentacles. This is all in your head. He could almost feel it. It didn't really happen in his imagination. Quickly, he tipped the magazine and plopped the little sea monster back into the tide pool. Now he suddenly wanted to laugh or maybe cheer. Sure, he's very relieved now. Jada and Uncle Tay were already cheering. That was awesome, Jada said. I could never do that. She hugged Benny. Uncle Tay said, You saved a life today. Right. What a cute story. Okay. A new problem begins in the middle of a story. They say, draw a star. Draw a star next to the paragraph where the new problem starts. Now, as we said, the problem starts here when the little octopus is in trouble. So you would put your star here. Benny turned around. The octopus had crawled out of the tide pool. This is where it starts. Now it's all about the little octopus. Almost not even so much about his fear. Now it's about the need to save a life. So his fear is suddenly on the back. He pushes the fear back and rather thinks, I don't, it doesn't matter. This is what a hero does. Extreme in the midst of danger, he still does a very good act. So this is where we're going with this. Right. Underline the sentence that describes how Benny solves the octopus's problem. Okay, we see when he knows and realizes the octopus is in trouble, he has to do something. Now, he could either run to the octopus, which is a little squishy, or he can chase away the bird. He ran towards the bird. He was yelling and waving his arms, making a noise, and we know birds are scared off by that. The frightened gull, the scared gull, flew away. Right. So you would underline. He ran towards the bird. He was yelling and waving his arms wildly. This is what he does to prevent this bad situation of happening. Okay, let's find some more evidence. Circle the paragraph that shows that Benny was changed from the beginning to the end of the story. At first, he wouldn't even come close to the tide pool. He was really not a happy chappy to be close to the tide pool. He did not like that. But now, since the problem came and he realized the octopus was in more danger than he was really around the pool, he changed. This is what he does. Um, the octopus looked squishy and slimy. It still looks slimy. But Benny is not worried at all. He thinks what could happen, but it still keeps him going. He could almost feel the sticky tentacles. While this happens is while he is carrying the little octopus on the magazine that Uncle Tay gave him. They scooped it up, remember? Now he's carrying it and he's looking at it, and this is what he's thinking. He looks squishy. Those tentacles could be quite sticky. I can imagine them holding on to me and crawling over me. But he quickly tipped the magazine and plopped the little sea monster back into the pool. He didn't have to touch it. He had made a plan, so he didn't have to touch it, but could still save it. Now he suddenly wanted to laugh. that often happens when you are in a very stressful situation, and after it's over, you are relieved and you actually want to laugh. It was actually almost funny, but it's more of relief. And he's happy because inside, I think he was really proud of himself. And so was Jada and Uncle Tay. So here you will draw this whole paragraph here will be circled because that is how he changed his feeling. From being a scaredy cat and squirmy, he was now wanting to laugh and cheer. A big, big change. Almost the opposite feeling of what he had before. Right. So that is our little story, and it's awesome. I hope it made sense to you and that you can tell where was the beginning, where was the middle, and how does this end. It always ends, you will have a closure where you will have feelings involved. Okay, so here we can see all the feelings. They are happy, they are cheering. Jada gives him a hug. She tells him that was so awesome. Um, and Uncle Jay says, and this is the whole thing, to him, saving a life was more important than being scared. Right. Remember to go to your assignment, the online assignment, complete the questions one by one. You can use your book. You can stop you can refer to your book, stop at a question, look at your book, get the right answer, go back to your story, and get the proper answers in there. Do not rush. When you are done, attach it and submit. Thank you for listening.